This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, gods of the Cosmere? This is Steven, your host from Fantology, along with my lifelong friends Ben and Josh. And if our voices sound a little bit deeper, that's because we are recording in the morning, kind of an irregular schedule for us, but we are here and excited to talk about Mistborn Secret History.
Yeah.
We have been kind of skipping around a bit. You notice we haven't covered all of Era 2, but we just finished Hero of Ages, and we thought might as well try Mistborn Secret History, and I think that decision really paid off. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, for sure. And this is when I would recommend you read Secret History if you're reading through the Cosmere for the first time. Kind of the gap between Era 1 and Era 2. There's like maybe some minor spoilers for Era 2, but like I can even pick up on them when I was reading them, and I knew that they were there because they kind of said that they were there at the beginning of the book. So yeah.
Well, the reveal at Bands of Mourning was pretty epic, you know.
And let's say before we go, we're gonna do full spoilers through Era 2 Mistborn. I think all of Mistborn books.
Okay.
You think so? Okay.
We have to. I mean, Josh was just about to do it, so we have to.
Well, I was gonna keep it vague, but yeah, I think we probably. I mean,
so let's do this.
Not to.
Let's do this. Full spoilers for Mistborn, but not for the Cosmere, right? So like we might like reference maybe like a magic system on like in Stormlight, but we won't spoil any plot points on Stormlight.
Sounds good. Good plan. But yeah, Josh, I agree. The reveal at the end of Bands of Mourning when Kelsier actually shows up, that hits different if you've read Secret History because you know, oh, Kelsier is alive. But when I read Bands of Mourning for the first time, obviously Secret History hadn't come out yet. It came out a little bit afterwards, like early 2016, which is actually a long time since the last Mistborn book. But that aside, anyway, after finishing Bands of Mourning, it's like, oh my gosh, Kelsier is still alive. But if you read Secret History beforehand, you're like, oh, I know Kelsier's alive. Now here he is. So that's the difference. And some would say that's a spoiler.
Well, no, okay, that's true. I think the point is though that you're going to get that spoiler at some point, so you can either get it on a book that's focused on him or reading through like Era 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and I guess
you're going to get the information. Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's kind of hard to say like the spoiler is the main character of the book. I don't know.
Yeah, it is hard to know because we had gone years between first reading about Kelsier dying, you know, in 2010 or 11, I think is when we decided we all read the first Mistborn trilogy.
Yeah.
So we had gone for years and years thinking that Kelsier was dead, you know, to then getting the reveal. So it would be hard to know like how that hit versus you're just reading, you know, if you just started reading Mistborn, you read Mistborn 1 to 3, and then you jumped right into Era 2, and like it had been maybe like a year since you read the first book, and then you read Bands of Mourning. You know what I mean? And you had been probably picking up on some of those clues because it was fresher. Mm-hmm. Like when I was going back and reading the series the second time, it was like pretty obvious that Kelsier was still alive. You know,
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think that whenever we can talk about this a bit more, but like I think whenever you're reading through the series for the first time, even on rereads, it's very easy to assume that anything going on in the background is just preservation. Like you don't need to attribute anything to Kelsier. So, but yeah, I do think though that like if you end up, and again, this is kind of all irrelevant because if you've made it this far, chances are you've read the whole thing. But like if you are going through 1 through 3 and then read Secret History right after that, I do think it's a little bit more fun to have like a look behind the curtain when you're reading Era 2, because then you can kind of like relate to preservation a bit more, like kind of as he interacts with characters in Era 2, and you just can like, I don't know, to me it's a peek behind the curtain that makes Era 2 more fun.
When you say preservation, you mean harmony?
Oh, sorry, harmony. Yeah.
Well, I have a friend right now that's reading Hero of Ages. He's about to finish Hero of Ages. He could be our guinea pig. I'll just tell him, hey, you need to read Secret History now and see what he says.
Well, you know, tell him to splice some stuff on the timeline, right?
Right. We needed another timeline
like
where he
flip
reads
a magical coin or something. Yeah.
Man, if only Ben and I were reading this for the first time, then we could have just.
We really need twins to do it.
Yeah. Twins open up the door for so many types of experiments.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some
So-
twinism there. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So
I understand a natural experiment when I see one. All right.
So I haven't actually read Era 2 in a long time. I think I've reread a few of the books twice, but like right when they first came out. So I'm interested because I don't remember how much really Secret History would apply to it, but you've been rereading it. Like I haven't reread it since I read Secret History, I guess.
Ben, you've
So
reread
that's
all
gonna be an
three
interesting
recently,
perspective.
right?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm saying. There's not a ton of interaction with Harmony and our
Kelsier.
characters. Well, Harmony and Kelsier, but also like
Uh-huh.
to me, I don't know. Era 2, like I said, just gives you a peek behind the curtain, and it's something that is relevant throughout Era 2 at points, right? Especially in Ben's morning. So I don't know. I would say that it adds a layer to it.
Yeah, I've been rereading as well. I haven't reread Bands of Mourning yet. I just finished Shadows of Self like last week, and Harmony definitely, has a moment in Shadows of Self that's pretty right there. I don't remember what happens in Bands of Mourning other than the end.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fun reread for me.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's the thing about Secret History is that like it is so Cosmere aware that like it's very hard to keep up with everything in that book too. So,
Uh-huh. And so I'll say Secret History just totally throws you into the deep end of the Cosmere pool, right? When I read it the first time, I probably did not understand what was going on nearly as well as I did now, having read all of Stormlight and all of other Sanderson stuff and reread even a few times and, spent all this time on Phantology podcast talking about these things, like I feel like I understand pretty well, not everything, don't ask me the difference between like a splinter of a shard and there's another term as well. I don't even know all the terms, but I do have a pretty good grasp of the different realms and stuff. So I really enjoyed that aspect of Secret History and getting into all of this, these characters that you don't see very much except behind the scenes. Like we get a pretty good look at Hoyd here, which is pretty rare in other books. You get stuff like you learn about the perpendicularities, connection, identity, to capitalized terms, right? Ad nauseam is discussed. So all of that stuff, like, did you guys enjoy that? Do you think it was too much? I do think maybe like the average reader goes through this and is like, okay, I know Kelsier, but like, what was all that?
Yeah. So this is my third time reading Secret History. And I did on a reread, like after I'd gone through the whole Cosmere, and I still didn't really understand like connection and identity. And the only reason I understood that better this time is because one of the secret projects kind of delves into that a little bit more. So this is definitely like a first introduction to a lot of these concepts.
And an introduction that doesn't really provide too much explanation still.
No, yeah, it's a high learning curve.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and it also doesn't provide that much payoff for like understanding those things, right?
Yeah. So, right. Other than it's fun to get a peek behind the curtain, which is really what the payoff for me is in this book, is a peek behind the curtain, and something that Sanderson has obviously been really wanting to put out there. So I'm glad he did. I enjoyed the majority of
this
it.
This is just fodder for questions at like conventions.
Yeah,
that's what this book is.
For sure.
Well, I'm going to push back on that a little bit because I don't think it's just fodder for conventions. Like we were talking, this provides a really compelling story arc for Kelsier, which was missing in the original trilogy, and looks like it's going to be important for like the Cosmere going forward. So
agree.
So I think that while like there are some things in the Cosmere right now that I think aren't really necessary, like White Sand, for instance. Like I don't think you really need to read White Sand to really feel like you know a lot about the Cosmere, right? But I feel like this is required reading for the Cosmere, not only because it gives you that peek behind the curtain, but because it provides like really important character development for Kelsier, and to a lesser extent like Hoyd, and what can like how shard holders can die and stuff. Like that's all pretty essential for the Cosmere moving forward, I feel like.
And we don't want to do any spoilers. We said we weren't going to do any spoilers, but Kelsier's character is important. And after one book, I felt like I had a pretty limited understanding of who he was as a character. He's like kind of this charismatic crew leader of these thieves that has some questionable morals and has a haunted past. But, you know, if I was to like sit down and have dinner with him, like, would I really understand too much of where he's coming from, or just what his character is like in general? You know, like maybe not. But after reading this one, it has more of an arc to his like personal journey through the afterlife. And yeah, I think it was great at helping us understand who he is. And going forward, I think that's rereading this is really going to help me like know what to expect from him.
See, I don't know how true that is for me, because I do think that we get more sides of Kelsier, but he definitely still has not completed that journey, right? Like the question that Vin asked him at the end, like, I know that you love, but what was it? Like, I know that you love people, but do you know why you love people, or something like that?
It's like, did you do this for yourself, or did you do it for us?
Yeah.
Like, why were you really trying to kill the Lord Ruler and take it all down? Was it because you needed to know if you were betrayed? Was it all about you, or was it really about saving people? And I think, you know, the answer is it was really about Kelsier. Like, he didn't think too long about, you're like, oh, Mare's in the afterlife, I could go into the afterlife and be with her. Like, he doesn't really ever consider doing that. He just stays right away.
And so I think that we have a lot of those questions about his character are asked but not answered, right? And so I do think that it's cool that we see him begin on this journey. But it was kind of weird for me, because you see him begin on that journey, but then the final scene is of him just hanging out with Spook, just kind of back to his cocky self, right? So it's a little, I don't know. Definitely the journey was started.
That's like the classic Sanderson end credit scene that he likes to throw into his books. That's where, you know, it's the setup for the next thing. So here he is with Spook giving him the earring and trying to, you know, experiment with hemorrhagy, obviously hinting towards like, let's see if I can get a body back. And it ties back to the question he asked Harmony earlier of like, can I come back alive? And he's like, Harmony's a terrible liar. I can. It's just set up.
Yeah. That's fair. So we kind of like think that his character arc should end on these like probing questions and not necessarily on the end credit scene.
Yeah, for this book, I would say. Okay. That's true. Yeah. But I agree. His character arc is obviously going to continue through future books in the Cosmere. And Sanderson said at the very end, I don't know if you guys had this in your version, at the very end, there's like a paragraph of Sanderson talking about it. And he says, I'm concerned that people are going to think I can't kill off any characters. I'm kind of paraphrasing. He didn't say exactly this, but he said, I was never planning on killing Kelsier. I always knew his arc was not complete and that he was going to do things in the background. He said he wasn't sure if he was actually going to write this one, but he's glad he did. Yeah. So Kelsier, you know, not just resurrected for fun, he always had a role to play, a bigger role to play going forward. Yeah. And he did he wrote that into the book, so it's not like retconned or anything. So I do like that. I think that it was kind of interesting though, because I do think that Kelsier had a complete character arc, especially dying as a martyr. And so you're kind of opening that character arc back up in order to like develop it more fully. So that's why it was a little bit jolting for me. I can see that. Like, he does have a bit of an arc in the first book. It's just, especially after we see him dying as a martyr with the plan that the Ska is going to rebel, and you kind of see that he's willing to sacrifice himself for the cause that he believed in and stuff. Like, so I don't know. I like I said, I really like the direction that this went. I'm just saying that like it does kind of change Kelsier's character, or change his character from like this martyr type character that learned everything he had to learn to kind of like starting over and like reevaluating all of his actions. I mean, I would say it doesn't necessarily change his character. It just gives us a bigger understanding than we previously had. Because we do have a story in Mistborn, The Final Empire, and that's somewhat complete, and now we have a different story, but it's just kind of a, it's a bigger understanding, which I think is great. Like if you're able to do two different stories and both are satisfactory and both are with the same character, like that's a pretty good job of storytelling.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So one of the things that I really enjoyed that you guys have hinted at, is the tie-ins to the first trilogy. I really liked going through this, and this is why I think you said, Ben, it's so awesome to read after the Hero of Ages, is because I actually remember everything that happened in the Hero of Ages pretty well. And so now I can go back and read through this and say, oh, like that's what that was. Because there actually are a lot of loose ends in the Hero of Ages that, like you said, you mostly kind of just attribute those to preservation or like, ruin behind the scenes or something, but aren't fully explained. And now that we know it's Kelsier, I think it makes it cool. Like Kelsier actually did a lot. Like he was very integral in saving the world here.
Yeah, and one of the things I did not remember is the chase between him and Vin. Did she just assume she was being chased by Ruin, or what was that? Because
I don't think she even really. Okay, I might have it wrong, but I don't remember her even really giving a second thought. This was right after Kelsier talks her out of talking to Hoyd, which I thought was funny, and was something I didn't realize that he was the one doing. I thought it was just some premonition that she had, and it was just a way for Sanderson to put Hoyd into the book. But Kelsier was the one who told her not to go talk to him. And then he follows her, and Vin just thinks it's another Mistborn. And I don't remember her ever thinking about it again.
Interesting. Yeah, there's like a lot of those chases in the books, which kind of get old after a while.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I didn't realize it was his idea to stab Ellen's, but that's
something
fits
I
his
remember.
Character.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was crazy. And Marsh making that sacrifice was pretty integral to everything that happened.
Yeah, I also did not remember that that he saw like into Marsh's mind, realized that Marsh could be the key in doing this, because you see what Marsh is trying to do in the Hero of Ages, and so you think the whole thing was really just like Marsh finding his moment to act, but you don't realize that it was Kelsier who kind of opened that up, who made that possible.
Like you do know that Marsh was looking for some way to rebel, but he didn't know exactly how or like the purpose behind it. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
I'm sure there were more moments as well. Those are the ones that I remember. Were there any other ones that you guys caught on to?
Oh. No, those were the ones that come to my mind.
Let us know in the comments if there are any other cool ones. But yeah, it's awesome that Kelsier did so much to actually, that his plan actually, he was still kind of the crew leader, albeit behind the scenes this time.
Yeah. Oh, I guess Spook. Everything with Spook.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Spook was a huge one. Yeah.
Right.
And that was all kind of confusing because you never really knew if it was Kelsier or if it was Ruin or if it was Preservation. Like even reading it after having read his Secret History, 6 years ago or whatever, like it was still kind of confusing to remember what was what. And the only thing I remembered for sure was that Kelsier is the one that stabbed Ellen and that gave Spook the that helped him be able to get out of the fire and stuff. And so everything else was kind of filling in those holes. Another thing that I did kind of like about this book was that it brought in the theme through the first history of like the Church of the Survivor and like the legitimacy that it had, even though like it was kind of based on a fabrication from Kelsier. It still was one of those things that had like a lot of truth to it. Like, yeah, Kelsier was still alive. He was still like influencing things and playing it, and kind of essentially did become God for a little bit when he ascended. So
that's cool, Josh. I did not think about that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So even though as the reader, Sanderson wants you to think that Church of the Survivor is ridiculous, in fact, behind the scenes is like, this is actually true.
Yeah, I think that the Church of Survivor is interesting because I always attribute it to kind of Kelsier's like pride slash like just his plan for this god to rebel and to give them like, you know, like something to unite behind, and kind of his just like almost cynicism that like of just like blatantly using religion to this end. So it does kind of rephrase it to being like some type of like truth to it, even though there was some truth to it when it began, I guess.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, the only other thing that I have down is to talk about the Ire and that whole like middle section of the book.
Yeah,
which is a little rough for me. I'll be
it's
honest.
because I mean, I thought it was interesting because it's a Kelsier book, so obviously it needs a heist, right? Like that's always like Sanderson's theme with Kelsier, is that he's like kind of the Ocean's 11 like crew leader. So I did like, I kind of like that it was harkening back to like the heist mentality. He's like, what am I supposed to do when I meet a new group of people? I need to steal something that's important to them, you know. And that's kind of like, so to me it kind of fit his character, but I do agree that was kind of boring / unnecessary. So, and
just the Ire were so weird. I guess I didn't understand this. It's probably not too hard to figure out because their name is Ire, so they're Elantrian. But we don't really know much else about them. Maybe there are some details out there buried in the, you know, words of Brandon, but it's just hard for me to have these people be such a huge part of the plot without understanding what their motivations are, or who are they.
The kind of biggest thing that I got out of it was that they were in that same state that Kelsier was in. Like, it's been a while since I've read Elantris. Like, I don't even know how long. I think I read it after Mistborn, but it's been a while. And so like knowing that they're in that state, like between death but before they kind of go into the afterlife, right? Isn't that what they said, that they were kind of?
No, they were there by choice. I think that was more like they have figured out a way to get to the cognitive realm.
No, but there was that group of people, but they also mentioned a group of people that had died. Like they were talking about the Elantrians themselves that like died but hadn't come back to life, or that like,
I don't know. I think,
or were they talking about the Threnody people?
Yeah, I think they were talking about Threnody and the shadows that were kind of a threat to.
That's what I thought, because they initially thought that Kelsier was a Threnodite.
Yeah.
Okay, then I must be wrong. My bad.
I think
to be fair, Josh, like I don't understand what's going on here too much either.
Well, I think because Shadows has like the cognitive shadows that are a threat to Threnody, right? And I think that did happen because of the death of a god of that planet or something like that.
Oh, that sounds right.
Okay. And so it's interesting because my biggest issue is that you feel like these people should be more powerful than they are in the book, right? Because they're like interacting with the cognitive realm in a way that's like very unique and you don't really understand it, and they have this like device that would let them like basically ascend, right? And so like, and they're just kind of scared off by Ruin.
And they're bested by Kelsier, who doesn't know. We've been with Kelsier, we know he doesn't really understand what's going on.
Yeah, and so Kelsey's able to best them by like playing Bump in the Night. You know, it just kind of seemed weird. Like if these people are like aiming for god tier performance and they're being scared off by some voices in the night, that kind of seems, you know.
It's a good point. Yeah, you're not wrong. I also thought their little device thing was just kind of like, where did they get this thing from?
Yeah.
Kind of a MacGuffin.
So
yeah, I mean, I guess it works and it helps explain how Kelsier was able to actually take up Preservation's power. But like, did Sanderson just kind of like invent it in order to make things work?
Yeah, and he wouldn't even like who would any of us be to say that like Kelsier couldn't have just taken up the power? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he kind of wrote himself into a corner. I don't know. Like, there's no reason why he wouldn't have been able to take up the power if Sanderson wanted him to without that device.
Yeah, Sanderson probably could have just explained. Like, I would have bought it, right?
Because exactly.
Preservation had like touched him or whatever it was at the beginning in order to help him stay there. So Sanderson easily could have said like, oh, because preservation had interacted with him or
he
whatever.
spent
like,
so much time in the Well of Ascension.
Yeah, like he didn't do him with powers, therefore he was able to connect to its power enough to take it up.
Yeah, like what's really different between him and Vin when Vin takes it up, you know?
Yeah, well, the fact that Vin's alive, but yeah.
So and the main thing with Kelsier is he's so much of ruin that it doesn't really make sense for him to hold preservation in that way.
But Vin also like kills a lot of people, so
that's true.
I mean,
it does kill a lot of people.
And she's being guided by Ruin quite a bit, but yeah, I don't think that she's quite on Kelsier's level. So one thing I did like, kind of in the same vein, is Kelsier learning how to interact with the cognitive realm. Like we see like hints of soul casting a little bit, and so I do think that was a cool way to kind of draw some parallels between like how you can like the cognitive realm might look different than Shadesmar, but like you're interacting with it in much the same way.
Yeah, I thought, exactly. It's not the cognitive realm as we know it from all the time we've spent in Shadesmar and Stormlight, and I guess we said we weren't going to do spoilers for Stormlight, but so let's not do too many details. But
kind of magic system spoiler.
Yeah, right. Shadesmar is a thing that you may come across in Stormlight. Anyway, it's different here in Scadrial.
Yeah, but it's like same but different. You know what I mean? Like you do kind of see that things are reversed when it comes to land versus sea. You kind of see that like you're able to kind of draw out the true soul behind an object to make it like do your bidding. So that was cool.
And Kelsier starting to understand this. I mean, I think we can assume he's going to get better and better with these types of powers given a lot of time, which he has a lot now.
Yeah. I mean, we see him become pretty good with them after just like, you know, a few months or a couple years or whatever the timeline is, you know. So a lot of running as well. A lot of running.
Yeah, a lot of Tom Cruise would have been perfect for Kelsier in Secret History. Make that casting. Man.
Tom Cruise would be a cool Kelsier. He has just enough of a crazy look in his eye to sell you on it.
I could see it. He's getting a little old though. I don't know if he comes across as a good Kelsier at the beginning.
Kelsier, he's an older character. You know,
he's not in his 50s. Tom Cruise is in like 50s.
I think he's in like his 40s in the book though. He's older.
Is he? Tom Cruise looks younger. Okay, it could work. I mean, if we were getting Tom Cruise for the Mistborn adaptation, I'm gonna take it no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, any final words on Secret History?
I kind of have a worst of the best here.
I wasn't sure if you were gonna. So one moment here from Ben. I don't have one. I think I already kind of went through my pros and cons. But tell us the one thing that you thought could have been better.
My thing is the amount of times that Kelsier decks people in the book is just kind of ridiculous, right? Like, who does he deck? He decks Hoyd. He
tries. I mean, he does punch him, but like
he punches, and at least he tries to. Yeah. And Hoyd does say it's been a few centuries since anybody got the drop on me. So okay, so
the interesting thing about that is Hoyd then proceeds to beat the crap out of him.
Oh yeah.
But that's interesting because Hoyd can't, like, part of some reasons that are spoilers means that Hoyd can't actually like attack anyone or hurt anyone that's alive, but he can with Kelsier because he's dead. So that was interesting.
Yeah. And we see that he's kind of ruthless in that too. I mean, he doesn't actually have a desire to cause any lasting damage, but okay. So he decks Hoyd, he decks preservation, he decks harmony, he decks ruin when he sees him.
Well, he tries to the first time, Ruin dodges, and then when Ruin actually dies, then he does.
So he tries to deck Ruin as like Ruin, you know. Yeah. So there's just like a lot of decking going on.
Too much decking.
Yeah. So
sounds like something that's not safe for work or something over here.
I don't know.
Don't think too hard about
to
it.
me, that is like I can see it in his character, but you got to have a somewhat nuanced response sometimes with these things.
So he should have been kicking sometimes, or
I don't know, but it loses its punch, so to speak, after he does it for the fourth time in the book.
bada boom. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of have one as well.
Nice.
It's maybe just a little bit of a gripe, but like the whole like card trick, I felt like tried to be a little bit too cinematic when it wasn't like as cool as Sanderson thought it was. I feel like
when he was doing his overture of like, ruin, I've tricked you with the
yeah. Like I felt like it either needed more setup or like less gloating or something. The balance there just felt like a little bit off to me. It was like Sanderson was like, oh, I want to make the big reveal of this one that Kelsier was playing a card trick the whole time, but like we didn't even know cards were a thing in the Mistborn universe. I don't think. Like it just kind of felt like out of nowhere a little bit.
Yeah.
So both of you have minor gripes of moments that were probably really just designed to show Kelsier's character.
It was
maybe,
cool overall.
Maybe a little cheesy.
Yeah, it was cool overall, but like, the punching thing is cool overall, I think too. But it maybe could have just been done a little bit better. Like I think that's something where if it was an actual novel instead of a novella, like the editing process and revision process might have like worked both of those things out to be a little bit more balanced.
Yeah, like I definitely think that these interactions are cool and like the spirit of it should remain the same, but like just a different response would be.
To be honest, I didn't have a problem with it decking. I thought it was pretty funny, but
I thought it was great when he first came in and punched him right away.
That
was funny.
Yeah.
See,
yeah.
I do like that. I like that as well. But like, you got it like by the third time he's doing that, in a.
Yeah. Kelsier's just looking for people to hold him back and no one's around to hold him back. So he goes for it.
Exactly. But yeah.
I don't
think wait, didn't he punch? No, he didn't punch Ellen, but he gave him a snarky response when he got to the afterlife. Like,
he was, he tells him, oh, were you trying to get your suit to look like the white version of the Lord Rulers? Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. So Kelsier, I mean, all the things we've talked about have shown our newfound appreciation or our additional appreciation for him as a character.
Yeah, and as a character, I'm excited to spend more time with eventually.
Yes. So. All right, that's a wrap for Secret History because I do not have a worst of the best. I think I already gave all of my opinions, so I'm out. Sorry. Follow up with us on our review of The Shadows of Self, which is still going to come out, and then Bands of Mourning. And then at that point, maybe we do like a
everything you need to know for
right. Yeah. Everything you and hopefully we can find our way into getting an arc for the Lost Metal. It's July now, so we're 4 months away. We should probably start.
We're tracking.
Inquiries.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's time. It's time to get our arc, I think.
Oh yeah.
So if you're listening, Dragonsteel, we are big fans of the series. Thanks for listening. See you guys later.